My name is Xeno, and I am 62 years old. 3 months after I buried my wife, the woman who had been my partner for over 40 years, my own children sat across from me in the living room and asked me to leave the home I had spent my entire life building. I remember that evening clearly. The sun was setting behind the curtains, painting the walls with a dull orange glow. The house was quiet, too quiet. Since my wife died, silence had become the loudest thing in my life. My son Daniel cleared his throat. "Dad, we need to talk." Those 4 words are simple, but sometimes they carry storms behind them. My daughter Clara sat beside him, staring down at her hands. Something in my chest tightened. "All right," I said slowly, "what's on your mind?" Daniel looked at Clara, and Clara looked at Daniel. Then he said the words that would change my life forever. "Maybe it's time you moved out." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. Moved out. From my own home. But before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand the story behind that house, and the woman who made it a home. The woman who built our world. My wife Elena was not just my partner. She was my compass. I met her when I was 21 years old, working long days at a small auto repair shop. My hands were always covered in grease, and my pockets were usually empty. Elena was the opposite of me. She was a young schoolteacher with bright eyes and a laugh that could make anyone smile. We met at a local community festival. I spilled lemonade on her dress by accident. Instead of getting angry, she laughed. "Well," she said, "now we're both part of the same mess." That moment changed my life. We fell in love quickly, but our love was built on something deeper than romance. It was built on teamwork. When Daniel was born, Elena said something I never forgot. "Xeno," she said, holding our baby boy, "we are responsible for shaping a human being." And we tried our best. Years later, Clara was born, and our family finally felt complete. The house that held our memories. The house wasn't fancy. It was small, a little old, and sometimes the pipes made strange noises at night. But Elena loved it. "This house will grow with us," she said when we first moved in. And she was right. Those walls heard our children's first words. They witnessed birthdays, holidays, laughter, and tears. They saw Daniel learning to ride his bicycle in the driveway. They heard Clara practicing piano for hours. They saw Elena dancing in the kitchen while cooking dinner. Sometimes I would sit back and watch her, thinking to myself, how did I get so lucky? But life doesn't let happiness stay untouched forever. The day darkness entered our lives. 3 years ago, Elena started feeling tired all the time. At first, she brushed it off. "I'm just getting older," she joked. But the doctors discovered something far more serious. Cancer. The word landed like a hammer on my heart. For months, I stayed beside her through hospital visits, treatments, and long nights filled with fear. Yet Elena remained stronger than anyone I had ever known. One night in the hospital, she held my hand tightly. "Xeno," she whispered. "Yes. Promise me something. Anything. When I'm gone, don't stop living." My chest tightened. "You're not going anywhere," I said. But deep down, we both knew the truth. 6 months later, she was gone. And the world felt empty. The loneliness after loss. After Elena died, the house felt like a ghost. Her favorite chair sat untouched. Her kitchen felt unfamiliar without her voice. Even the garden looked sad without her caring hands. For a while, Daniel and Clara visited often. But life moves fast for younger people. Work, families, responsibilities. Their visits became shorter and eventually rare. Still, I never blamed them. Until that evening. The conversation that broke me. "Dad, the house is too big for you now," Daniel said. Clara nodded. "You should move somewhere smaller." I felt a strange weight in my chest. "This is my home," I said quietly. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Well, technically, the house is in my name." Years earlier, a lawyer had suggested transferring the house for inheritance reasons. I trusted my son completely. Now that trust stood in front of me like a betrayal. "We want to sell it," Daniel continued. My hands trembled. "And where do I go?" I asked. "There are retirement communities," Clara said gently. But her words felt like knives. In that moment, I realized something painful. The children I had spent my life protecting no longer saw me as their father. They saw me as an obstacle. The longest night of my life. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room staring at Alina's photograph. Her smile looked as warm as ever. "Did we make a mistake?" I whispered. For hours, memories flooded my mind. Holding Daniel when he had nightmares. Teaching Clara how to read. Working overtime so they could go to college. I had given them everything. And yet here I was. But then I remembered something Alina used to say. Kindness should never come at the cost of your dignity. By sunrise, I had made my decision. Walking away. The next day, Daniel came to see me again. "Have you thought about it?" he asked. "Yes," I said calmly. Relief appeared on his face. "I'll leave the house." But then I added something he didn't expect. "And I'll leave your lives too." His smile disappeared. "What do you mean?" I stood up slowly. "You're right about one thing, Daniel." "What?" "This house is yours." I looked around the room one last time. "But my self-respect is mine." Clara looked shocked. "Dad, don't be dramatic." I shook my head. "No, I'm finally being honest." Starting over at 62. 2 weeks later, I packed my belongings and left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I simply walked away. With my savings, I bought a small cottage in a quiet town far from the city. It had a little garden and a wooden porch. For the first time since Alina died, I felt peace. I planted flowers because Alina loved them. Every morning I sat outside with coffee and watched the sunrise. And slowly, life started returning to me. A new family. One day, I visited a community center for elderly people. Many of them had been abandoned by their families. Their stories broke my heart. So I started volunteering. Fixing broken furniture. Repairing doors. Helping organize events. Soon, those people became my new family. They appreciated my presence. They valued my time. And something inside me healed. The day my children returned. About a year later, someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, my heart skipped a beat. Daniel and Clara stood there. They looked different. Older. Humbled. "Dad," Daniel said quietly. Clara's eyes filled with tears. "We're sorry." They told me they had sold the house. But instead of happiness, they felt emptiness. Money couldn't replace the family they had damaged. For a long moment, I said nothing. Then I spoke calmly. "I forgave you long ago." Relief appeared on their faces. "But forgiveness," I continued, "doesn't erase the past." They nodded slowly. "Respect," I said, "takes time to rebuild." The lesson life taught me. Today, at 62 years old, I live a peaceful life. I still miss Alina every day. But I also learned something powerful. Sometimes the people we sacrifice the most forget our value. And when that happens, we must remember it ourselves. Because dignity is not something others give us. It's something we protect. Moral of the story: Never forget the sacrifices your parents made for you. A home is not built with walls and money. It is built with love, gratitude, and respect. Once those disappear, even the largest house becomes empty.